Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Yeah, I nearly said Monday because we actually forgot I didn't do a show yesterday. Bryce is away right now. So happy Tuesday, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and all of the beautiful things that go along with it. And of course, being our alternate Tuesday, we have the gorgeous Jessica Jones, or also known as the Cryptid Huntress, who's no stranger to Aquarius Rising Africa. So welcome back, Jessica. How are you?
Hey, thank you. I'm doing excellent. I'm doing excellent. We had a long weekend here in the United States. We had Memorial Day yesterday, and so it does feel like Monday today to me as well. It does.
Hang on, when was yesterday? Is Sunday? Was that Sunday? Hang on, where are we
Yesterday
now?
was Monday.
Okay.
Yesterday was Monday.
Oh, right. Okay. So the holiday fell on the Monday. Well, yeah, I know. And I mean, I know that it's actually such a sad time that for a lot of people, the Memorial Day.
It is. It is. That's the day that we remember all of our veterans, the people that served in our military, law enforcement, first responders, people who've lost their lives. And of course, it's a solemn day, but we also celebrate. A lot of people go out and have cookouts and stuff too. So
Nice.
I went bigfooting on Sunday, so that's how I celebrated.
You're always going bigfooting, babe. It's awesome to hear.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm like very chuffed because we're going to be talking about stuff I know that a lot of people on the chats like. And let me just say hello, everybody. Mary, Lisa D, Chicky Blue, the girl and her gong, Millie, yeah, everyone who's joined the chat. Really good to hear from you guys and have you here with us again. And we're going to be talking about the Black-Eyed Kids, the Water Babies of Pyramid Lake, and mermaids. So I'm loving the topic. And yeah, over to you. Tell us how you get to, I mean, shall we start with the mermaids then, right? Start from the back type thing. So have you remote viewed mermaids and stuff like that? I mean, what is your take on mermaids? And where are they? Are they all over the planet, or is it just in certain areas, like such as under Area 51 or something?
Yeah. Well, I don't know where they are because I've never seen one personally, but I do know we get reports of lake mermaids. Okay. And so you hear about mermaids and you think about them being in the oceans and off the coast of, islands and things like that. But we've been getting reports here in the United States of lake mermaids. That's freshwater mermaids in the lakes and rivers. There's one particular case that I was tasked with, a remote viewing target, but it was not exactly the mermaids in this lake. It was the lake itself. Okay, so this lake is in Nevada and it's called Pyramid Lake. And some say that this lake is cursed. Okay, that's kind of a big topic for me right now. I'm really looking into cursed lakes. And we have a lot of those around here.
That would make a lot of sense that the lakes would be cursed. Not just, I mean, because you think about a lake, it carries a very large body of water as well. And water is the one thing that we can certainly not survive without, right? So it would make sense then in that some of the creatures of the night would have taken great joy in cursing the lakes, not just the waters, I guess, but everything that's in them as well, right?
Right. And the Pyramid Lake is actually on a lot of land that is originally Native American land, and it has quite a sinister background to it. Now, some of the lakes that are down here in the southeastern part of the United States where I live, they're cursed lakes. Some of them have been, a lot of them were originally on Native American land, of course, but some say they're cursed for another reason, because they're man-made lakes, and entire communities were wiped out to build those lakes. And that's, graveyards, churches, homes, and people go, there's one lake in particular in Georgia where I live called Lake Lanier. And it's pretty well known for having a lot of freak accidents and drownings every year. People jump in the water. I've gone swimming in that lake quite a bit and riding boats in it. It's a gigantic lake, but people don't know, like, there's trees down there and there's stuff like steeples of churches and stuff. And when you jump in the water, you might get caught in a tree. You never know, because the lake is very deep. Also, with my remote viewing that I do, two of at least, actually, the first high priority missing person target that I ever was tasked actually was a person who had been unalived and dumped into Lake Lanier. Okay, so I have a big interest in Lake Lanier, in that cursed lake.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you think the curses come from the ancestors of the people who've been ignored? In other words, the graveyards that they've just like built over there, their sacred grounds, no doubt, because every culture, especially the ancient indigenous cultures, and I'm sure there were so many more that we don't even know about, right? It would obviously be maybe the spirits of the ancestors, etc., that really just don't want anyone there, right?
I think so. Yeah. Well, with a lot of these things that I'm looking into with my cryptid field research and with the remote viewing, there are places that require blood and sacrifice and stuff, cursed lands, that includes cursed lakes. So maybe that has something to do with it. But also there is a government element with some of this as well, because some of these lakes are in national forests, national parks.
Why is there no big surprise coming from that? Because we all know our GOV govs what they like to get up to when they think no one's looking. Wow.
Oh, yeah. Some people have reported seeing UFOs or USOs coming in and out of some of these lakes in these national parks.
Wouldn't surprise me, because lakes, water is a very powerful portal. They can do this. Water holds obviously the ability, and in their portals, because those portals travel to wherever. So it would make a lot of sense that there are UFOs or whatever it is coming out of those lakes as well. Wow.
Oh, yeah. And you have to factor in the underground bases, the deep underground military bases, and that being federal land. There's no telling what they've got, what kind of technology they have as far as UFOs go.
I think it's quite safe to say that the technology they have, they've nowhere near come clean to revealing what that is, because when you speak to some of the high-level survivors of SRA and stuff like that, and we know, as you well know better than anyone, that we live in a multi-dimensional world. So there's different dimensions. I mean, you look to someone like Jesse, for example. Jesse's a Botan, Caleb Jade, who are regulars on my channel. When they're training, I mean, they like we were talking at one summer. I've done some interviews with Jesse on the underground military bases, and we did the water bases. And they literally dive into a swimming pool, and then they go through a portal, and that takes them to places in different underground, the underground cities. Like, they've created all sorts of weird fish and stuff like that, and dragons and everything, bionic sharks. They've completely weaponized so many of our natural animals, sea life as well. And also, I mean, it's, so they dive around, they're in and out, they're zooming in and out through these places, which makes a lot of sense that water would be one of the great things, the great places that they get up to their mischief.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And so, of course, I like to look into the weaponization of cryptids, weaponization of dogmen and werewolves and Bigfoots. Why not mermaids? That'd be a great weapon. A great super.
I do believe they already have.
Yeah,
I think they already have. That's what I'm hearing from them. It's part of their creations. When we're looking at what's possible, that these alchemists get up to, because it's all done by the alchemists. They just need the right DNA, and they concoct anything you want, and that includes mermaids.
Oh my gosh. Well, that adds another level to what we're about to talk about with the Pyramid Lake mermaids, because some say that they're, I mean, and this is, I don't think this is a big secret, but there's some sort of underwater like aquifer system. There's some kind of like channel that runs underneath the lakes from Lake Pyramid to Lake Tahoe, I believe. And it's all underground. And so when people will drown in one of these lakes, their bodies will be found like 100 miles down the road or 60 miles down the road at this other lake. Their bodies pop up there because they're going underground. They're getting sucked down into these underground things. They say that there's like a submarine base there. Submarine. And this is in the middle of the United States in the desert. Okay.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense. Caleb, in one of the interviews, he was saying to me, or saying to us, that the strangest thing he ever saw, because he was in the US shadow military, right? Diving through dimensions, literally, and collecting all sorts of things. But he was saying that one of the strangest things he ever saw was they were somewhere in some jungle or something, and the next minute, a CIA or alphabet boy appears out of nowhere wearing a pink golf shirt, giving them instructions as to what they should do next. And boop, there he goes again through the portal.
Oh, wow. I believe it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's not even a doubt in my mind.
Such a wild thing. Yeah, that is funny. Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, well, let's I guess let's talk about Pyramid Lake then, okay? Because there's so many weird anomalies going on with this cursed lake. And the people who I know who live near this lake will not step foot in that water. They will not. And people who live there do not get in this lake at all, because it's cursed, and they're afraid that the spiteful mermaid, there's what they call the spiteful mermaid, lives in this lake along with the water babies. And they say if you get in that lake, they will pull you down and you'll drown in this lake.
So what is a water baby exactly then?
Okay, well, the water babies are actually this is what is a legend. This is what's rumored to be, that they are actually the drowned, deformed babies of the Paiutes. Okay, the Paiutes are a tribe of the Native Americans here and own that land. That is their land there. Okay, and so yes, I know it's just pretty sinister actually, and some people will argue that, but that's the legend. Okay, that's the legend as to what the water babies are. Now, I can kind of read a little bit about exactly what this is, so I don't leave anything out. Okay, so we'll talk about. I'm going to explain what Pyramid Lake is, and then the mermaids and the water babies. Okay, perfect. So Pyramid Lake is one of the most beautiful lakes in all of Nevada. It's located in southeastern Washoe County within the Truckee River Basin. Now, I was actually just there about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was in Reno, Nevada. Okay, and this is only about 40 miles from where I was. But I went into I was actually at the old Washoe Club. I did some ghost hunting there, which is not very far from this lake. Okay, a lot of very high activity, high strangeness there, a lot of high energetics going on out there. But despite the beauty of this lake, the legends are downright sinister. The lake is the last surviving remnant of the ancient Lake Lohontan that covered nearly all of Nevada during the I can't pronounce this, Pleistocene era, and it was the deepest part of the prehistoric lake. Okay, so it's really kind of the last part of the last remaining big part of this lake. And see, actually, all those lakes used to be connected. Okay, so like Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake and a bunch of other lakes, they were connected. Now they're not. All right, of course, but nobody really knows what's at the bottom of this lake, or they say. For centuries, the Paiute would throw their unwanted, deformed, or premature babies into the lake to dispose of them. That's the legend. Many have heard the sounds of babies crying or laughing coming from the lake. Rumor has it that if you hear a water baby cry, laugh, make any noise, and if you see them, you will pass away. You won't live very long. There's also the legend of the mermaid that a Paiute warrior fell in love with who lives in the lake. According to the legend, when he took her back to his village, I'm not sure how he did that, by the way. So slung her over his shoulder, I guess. But he took her back to his village to marry her. He was told, return it to the lake now. Okay, return her to the lake. Becoming enraged, the mermaid cursed the tribe. Today, many Paiute members believe that all bad luck, including the Pyramid Lake War, there was a war that went on there, is tied to that curse. She and the water babies are tied to many of the missing people who have vanished while swimming and boating in the waters. Okay, and so I was looking into this. I was given this task, the anomalies of Pyramid Lake, as a remote viewing target, and to see pretty much if these cryptids are simply legend and lore, or if there's some kind of, if there is a real threat to the people at this lake. Now, I think from historically, there is a threat in that lake. There's something going on there for sure. But I did do some remote viewing of it, and we came up with some interesting data here. Okay, some very interesting data, because I was picking up on some sort of, I was picking up on monsters. I wrote down monsters, okay, in my data. But something that was attacking people, I literally got attack mode and beast mode. I was picking up on a restricted area. So these are blind targets, so I don't know what I'm looking at here. But I was picking up on something that was underwater and bottom dwellers, okay, was in my data. So whatever was attacking these people was living at the bottom of this lake. Okay, so that was actually in the data on a blind target. All I was given was a set of numbers. And I was picking up also on weather manipulation and some sort of like frequencies that are going on there.
Right.
I actually wrote down harp. Yeah. So I was picking up on some sort of harp frequencies and sound weapons. Okay, so and I was later told that there is some sort of a submarine base in the area there, which is really odd, because why would there be a submarine base in the middle of the desert? Didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Because
but yeah,
they're full of nonsense and they're lying. That's why.
Oh no, our governments wouldn't lie to us, though.
Of course they wouldn't. How silly of me.
I know. Oh my gosh. But yeah, definitely was, and I even got a warning during this target when I was remote viewing it. I got a warning to stop, like, don't go there. This was my drawing, actually, right there. It was a stop sign for my stage 3 part of my data. It was a stop sign, like, don't go any further. Okay. Whatever I was remote viewing was dangerous, very dangerous. So I think it's really interesting. I have a lot more of this data here, but the gist of it is, I do believe that this, after remote viewing this and we analyze the data, we think that there are creatures down there. Okay, there are creatures down there, but there's also something more, and I think it has to do with HARP and some sort of technology. Okay, there's some form of technology that's going on there that is riling up whatever's in that water. Okay, so even if there's mutated stuff.
It makes such sense what you're saying, because if I go back to the interview with Jessie, guys, and if you haven't watched that interview yet, go and watch it. It's on my playlist with Jessie Zabota. And it's quite a while back already, but it's called The Water Bases. And it's exactly that, because they take these things and they obviously, because you look at a dolphin or a whale or something like that, and everything talks via frequency, right? Mm-hmm. So they start messing with the frequencies. I mean, if you've ever seen what they do in Japan with these, the dolphin hunts, right? What do? Is they take gongs and they make one heck of a noise to get these dolphins, because it completely messes with their frequency and the way they obviously know where to go and what have you. So they then that's how they get them into the cove, right, where they then hunt and slaughter them.
Oh,
And it's the same thing, because what she was saying was that they're using these things and it's making the fish, the sharks, etc., a lot more aggressive. And we were even talking, because at the time, right here in South Africa, we were just having shark attacks out of nowhere. I mean, a girl was like literally, she was thigh high in the sea, not far down the road from me, and a shark literally came out of nowhere and ate her. So there's a lot of that, and they put supersonic things into them, and yeah, it makes perfect sense what you're saying. So I will definitely vouch from that, just from what I've heard from people that have been there in these underground bases where they have to deal with, and as you say, lots of things that we don't even know: snakes, dragons, mermaids, everything is under there. Things that I'm sure so much more as well, right?
yes. Yes. And so what I was picking up on was more kind of like sonar. Okay. Sonar and radar. I mean, a lot of that was in my data. And so a friend of mine chimed in who was very familiar with this area. He used to go to Pyramid Lake as a child. With his grandfather, I believe, and they would never get in the water there, he said. But he confirmed, he actually sent me pictures of the submarine base there, and he said, well, that would make perfect sense, because if they have submarine training going on there, or for whatever reason they have the submarines in there, they're letting off that sonar, with those frequencies. Okay, so that's because I was getting a pulsating sound, like a pulsating energy. And he said, well, that would have probably been it. It would have been from the submarines. So
yeah, wow.
A lot of weird stuff went on underground in the water.
Someone's actually just saying, and I don't know if you know that, Finger Lakes. You know what Finger Lakes is? That's where all these Hunter Biden and co has it tattooed on his back. So I can absolutely know that there's nothing good going on there. Do you know anything about that?
No, is that a map? I remember him having a map on his back or something, right?
Was it a map? I know it had something to do with Finger Lakes or whatever.
Finger Lakes. No, I don't know what that is.
Finger Lakes is in New York. Someone is just saying. Thank you, the girl in her gong. It's in New York. So interesting. Maybe you can check out that at some point.
Finger Lakes. Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of it. So totally. Yeah, especially if there's monsters in it. Okay.
Well, I'd be wondering why these guys are so interested in Finger Lakes, that they'll even go as far as having tattoos on them, and especially Hunter Biden, because yeah, he's such a little angel.
Ew. Yeah, no angel. No, definitely not an angel. Not at all. Opposite. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's crazy. Wow.
But you do not get into that lake under any circumstance. They have a lot of missing people there. There's missing persons clusters. I forgot that. I think they said at least 1 or 2 people goes missing from this lake every year, every season. But I think it's more than that. Honestly, think it's more than that. But I do remember at least 1 to 2 every year. But that's kind of the rate of people going missing and drowning in these cursed lakes. I mean, we have them every year here at our lakes that are considered cursed where I live. So, and could that be from people drinking too much and boating? Absolutely. But there are, just like with the missing 411 cases that David Paulides looks into, there are some that are just anomalous, people to disappear, they're never seen again. And they hadn't been drinking or doing anything to get them in trouble. You know what I mean? Put them in harm's way. So maybe taking a dip in the water.
Wow.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense to me that some of that, especially if it's man-made lakes that are on, it's not a natural body of water that just happens to be there through God's good grace, but it's man-made, which is obviously, as you say, on sacred ground, on, where they haven't respected whatever it is. And yeah, it would make a lot of sense for me.
Yeah. Well, and another thing, which gets my attention, is that they call it Pyramid Lake. And there is actually, if you have pictures of, if you go look up Pyramid Lake, and there is a large, like a pyramid on one side of the lake. And knowing what I know, we have a lot of hidden history here in the United States, as we do all over the world. But we have pyramids all over the country, and that includes in Nevada. You know, the Grand Canyon has ancient Egyptian artifacts in it and stuff. So who's to say we didn't have Egyptian settlements here back then? I know we did. Okay, I know we did at some point, but there could be a lot of Egyptian heritage stuff going on there as well. I mean, could be curses from the ancient Egyptians.
Don't like being messed with.
Yeah.
And there's lots of dark magic going on. Not only fantastic magic, but dark magic too. I mean, they were, they knew how to be dark.
Yes, they call that the Tufa Rock Formation, and it's a pyramid. Now, of course, it's supposed to be natural, but who's to say it's not man-made? I mean, I don't know. It's worth looking into. Everything is suspicious to me these days, so I can't help but question it.
You got to stay suspicious, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
You don't. And nowadays you don't believe anything that anyone says at first glance. Anyway, I mean, it's just crazy.
Yes.
There's so much lies in between the truth that you've got to really be discerning. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Okay. And you're not going to believe how deep this lake is. The lake is 900 feet deep in the deepest parts, they say. 900 feet. That's very deep.
That's about 300 meters.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's a deep lake.
Very deep. So it could hold a submarine, right?
Easily. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No telling what else. Yeah, it could be some kind of underground base there. I'm just saying. But it is interesting. So, but yeah, so this is the story of the spiteful mermaid who was scorned. Okay, she was a scorned woman mermaid, female, who was mad that she couldn't be with the man that she loves, who was human. It sounds a whole lot like, I mean, I'm not saying the Little Mermaid cartoon. You know, I don't think she was spiteful at all, but you know, the mermaid falling in love with the human man. You know, it's that story, which we hear all too often, right? When it comes to mermaids.
Absolutely. Exactly. Wow.
Oh yeah, but they blame her for the curses. Okay, they blame her. Well, and the water babies. So the water babies are supposed to be the babies, the dead babies that were thrown into this lake. And I know that sounds horrible. Okay, it sounds horrible. Why would anybody throw babies into a lake? You know. The argument was when I actually have done a show on this, of course, with my remote viewing, and you know, it said, well, they only wanted the strongest and the fittest in the tribe, you know, according to legend. And so any newborn that was born with a deformity or something was deemed wrong with it, they didn't want to keep it there. Okay, so it was almost like a sacrifice, I guess, to whatever's in that lake, in my opinion.
Sorry about that. I thought my phone was on silent. That's crazy. And someone is just actually saying, yeah, sacrifice. So that would make sense. If there's a sacrifice, if someone was, you know, wanting but then they wouldn't want to be sacrificing the deformed and children that something was wrong with. It would be, you know, I guess their firstborn or their first son or whatever, as is usually the case when it comes to sacrificing your kids. But that's just tragic that they would take kids and throw them in the lake.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And so are they saying it's like the angry kids, the spirit of these kids?
Yes, they're saying that it's the babies. It's the babies. And they'll grab you and drown you when you jump in the water. Oh yeah, they do. And so there have been a lot of missing people out of this lake, like I said. And they say sometimes the water will just be like completely smooth and glassy and with no turbulence. And then out of nowhere, the waters will get really choppy, like dangerously choppy for no reason. But see, with the remote viewing data, it would make sense that there's some sort of sound frequency coming and being emitted from the bottom of that lake, right? Because I mean, what else would cause those waves and all that turbulence out of nowhere with no wind or anything going on, no storms, just the water gets choppy all of a sudden. So with the missing people, okay, they say that in like countless bodies have disappeared from the Pyramid Lake. They've resurfaced mysteriously in Lake Tahoe over 60 miles away, and vice versa. So people will drown in Lake Tahoe. Well, that's interesting. Well, some people would think, well, maybe it was UFOs. You know, maybe they're getting dropped from.
I was going to say, because they're not connected. A lake is a single body on its own, right? So it's not like they could have snuck through a furrow or something like that.
Well, okay, so it says not only does Lake Tahoe feed the Truckee River, but the Truckee River feeds Lake Pyramid. Making matters even weirder is that Pyramid Lake has no outlet whatsoever. Rumor has it that there are underground tunnels connecting the two rivers, and the bodies are drawn into these subterranean tunnels and transported between the two lakes. But there's no hardcore proof of that. Okay, there's no hardcore proof, they say, but people who live around there, they say that that's what it is. That there's some sort of like an some kind of system that goes between the two lakes, and that's where the submarines are traveling, from what I've been told, as well. So, but who knows? Who knows? It's all hearsay. It's all hearsay. But it's very interesting nonetheless. I think it's interesting that people drown in Lake Tahoe and their bodies end up in Lake Pyramid too. So they're going back and forth, which is odd.
That's just freaky.
Very. Wow. Very. So, I guess the water babies are not only known to drown people, they're said to eat people too. Just to add that in there. Okay, just to add that in there. So yeah, to eat them. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm not going swimming in Pyramid Lake ever. I will not.
I wouldn't want to do that either. No.
No. I have a hard time swimming in the lakes here now. After doing shows on these things, like it's really hard for me to dive into a lake around here anymore because I know what's in there. Okay, I know what's in there. I've looked into it. Okay, so we also have so the Lake Mermaid reports, that I've gotten include mermaids in Lake Michigan, which is in the northern part of the United States. New York, a good friend of mine, his name's Long Island Bigfoot. He took a report from a person in New York who had encountered a lake mermaid there. And we get reports of lake mermaids and river mermaids in North Carolina. And I see my good friend David Pardue is in your chat today. Hey, David. He and I go Bigfooting together. But he's here and he lives in North Carolina. So he may have heard about these lake mermaids. That's something I need to talk with him about. But
also, they're like becoming more and more frequently. Mm-hmm. They are viewed more and more frequently now.
Yeah,
so there's like more and more of them coming in.
I guess so. I mean, they may have always been here, but they were just always so hidden. I don't know what's going on. We're having an uptick in a lot of different cryptid sightings, including these dogman sightings that we're having all over the place. I mean, years ago, we didn't hear much about dogman here. I mean, I started off as a Bigfoot field researcher. I still am. But we're taking just as many dogman reports as we are Bigfoot reports now from all over the country. So for whatever reason, I don't know if there's some sort of frequency shift. I think there has been.
Well, I definitely feel, I mean, everything on the planet is changing right now. Mm-hmm. And, it's like everything is becoming more transparent. So we're seeing more and more things in good and in bad. It can never just be in one way. but yeah, you know, as we know by now, those of us who are watching, you know, we obviously are a little bit red-pilled here.
Yeah.
It's more than just our little planet Earth. There's so much, you know, there's so much more, so many more dimensions, so many more creatures that are actually, I want to say living here, but obviously in their own dimension, as always. You know, they've
Oh, yeah.
also got their,
Oh, yeah.
not necessarily in 3D. So it's good that we as humanity are starting to see beyond that now.
Yeah. If anybody that's watching this has any lake mermaid reports, send them to me. I love hearing about the lake mermaids. Makes me not want to swim in lakes anymore, but but it's still fun. Still fun to kind of get a map of them and map them out. To find out where people are seeing them. The ones in North Carolina, you know, North Carolina sits on the coast of the Atlantic Ocean on the east side of the state. And so they say that some of these mermaids are seen in the rivers that go into the ocean. They're swimming in, they're coming in that way from the ocean is what some people say. But nonetheless, there are mermaids all over the United States right now in the lakes. So watch your backs, y'all. Be careful when you're swimming. In the lake.
So mermaids, I mean, mermaids, obviously, I was actually going to ask the same thing. I mean, there are obviously male mermaids or mermen, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, they're mermen for sure. And they look terrifying. Oh my gosh, they're not beautiful like they're portrayed in paintings and old,
what do they look
fairy
like?
tales. They look scary. Okay, the ones that, and I've never seen one myself, okay, but they're described as looking pretty scary. They're not the beautiful mermaids like on the Little Mermaid like you'd think. The beautiful sirens, now they may be able to shapeshift for all I know. They could make you think you're seeing anything, but they look like monsters. Very scary. I mean, demonic almost. Okay, with
Well,
you know,
it makes sense to me that as well. That would make sense to me.
Oh yeah, there was a documentary that was put out that was fake. Okay, unfortunately, I think it was like Animal Planet put out a mermaid documentary a while back, a few years ago, and it was highly anticipated. I was looking forward to it, and it ended up being a bunch of fake stuff. Okay, but there was one video in particular that my buddy, I don't know if Barry's watching today. I sent him the link, so he may be in the chat today. But Barry was talking about this one video where there's a net that gets casted out by some fishermen out into the ocean, and as they're pulling the net up, a hand breaks through the netting, and it's a webbed hand, and they drop the net and back into the water. And so we don't see what this thing was, but it would look very human-like, but it had webs between. It was webbed. Okay, and it would have been really hard to fake that with a person because of just the mere the force of that net falling back into the water. It would have unalived somebody. Okay, so now could it have been CGI? Maybe too. I mean, but if there was any real evidence of mermaid on film, that might have been it right there. There was something in that net that did seem pretty legit. But otherwise, I have yet to see I've seen videos of fishermen that are recording the sirens. You know, they claim that they're mermaids, and you can hear them screaming and singing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've heard some credible reports. I definitely have.
Look, I mean, there's no doubt that there are definitely different creatures. And again, you know, I think also what, you know, when we're looking at the shadow governments and stuff, I mean, a lot of these things are created underground from DNA, you know, and they're hybrids, and they've been doing these experiments mixing DNA for a long time. So it wouldn't surprise me if some of them, I'm not going to say all, because I think where there's good, there's bad as well, right? So it wouldn't surprise me that they've been playing around, creating all these creatures of the night and letting them swim underground. And then again, that would then, you know, those concoctions that they make in a petri dish and then grow it. When it gets to the right size, age, whatever, that's when they merge it with the Raphaim spirits.
Yeah.
So that that's kind of like where what I believe is happening.
I can agree with that to an extent here, because I mean, there's been such an uptick. We're talking about the weaponization of cryptids, and I do believe that there are cloning facilities. I've remote viewed them. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Not knowing what they were, and my data says very clearly, like in Davenport, Iowa, I'd done a target for my friend Arkeem Ra, who was part of Project Phoenix with the Secret Space Program, the Montauk Program, Montauk Project. He gave me that as a blind target, and there's very clearly some funny business going on underneath Davenport, Iowa, and it did include what he believes was a cloning facility there. Okay, so and it's used for nefarious purposes. So why wouldn't they take giants? Okay, the DNA from giants. That's another remote viewing target I got, was the giant of Kandahar. When those troops went in, according to my data, it was to obtain a sample for potentially cloning purposes. Okay,
DNA,
so
they're always going to take a sample of DNA. They do.
Oh yeah. So it keeps coming up. I mean, I'm noticing there's a lot of patterns here with these targets that I'm getting that involve cryptids and giants and cloning.
Yeah. That's something I've been told a few times, that when these guys go in and they, as you said, kill the giants or just normal people in war, if they're sent on a mission, they have to take their DNA back, sample of their DNA.
Yeah. I mean, I've been told that they say there's a cryptid breeding program here in the United States where they are breeding these things. I don't know for positive, because I haven't seen it, but I did remote view it. I think it could be real. Okay. I don't know. I think that there's a lot.
I believe that most definitely.
Yeah. I don't think it's just cloning. I think it's also breeding programs and all this stuff. But why? But why?
Transhumanism. It's like they're concocting everything. I mean, again, you go back to some of Jessie's previous interviews, and she talks about how in the breeder programs, when they have these young girls just breeding, they would operate on some of the babies and put like pigs' hooves on, pigs' noses on, etc., on the baby in the womb still, and then that thing comes out as another chimera. So that's how they're doing it as well, just with that. And I mean, that's just one aspect of it. They are disgusting. They make, as long as they can get, and these are the dark alchemists, as long as they can get the DNA that they need, they can create another form of life. And they've been experimenting for a long time to do it. So it's not just the human babies like at the turn of the century, the Cabbage Patch Kids. It's lots of spiders, these creatures, these huge things, these half human, half animal, whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Transhumanism. Huh? That's because you have to wonder, like, are they planning to release all these onto the general public?
Yes.
And to help, what do you call it? Culling the herd, basically, like getting.
Yeah, and it's all part of the satanic agenda. It's all part of the satanic agenda. If you just look at Baphomet as well, half man, half woman. And that's what this whole transgenderism is about. So, and then they don't have a pure human race anymore. But they need us for our DNA. They need us for our consciousness. So they'll do whatever they have to steal it and then create their own concoctions. But and that's what they need us humans for.
This is perfect because it's bridging right into the black-eyed children topic. Yeah. Okay, because that is the other topic that we were going to cover today, and that is it's actually me encountering a black-eyed human. Okay, and so there's a difference, I think, because the black-eyed children are, some people say they're time travelers, some people say they're demonic, some people say they are interdimensional beings, some people say that they are coming back to warn humanity against nuclear fallout. Okay, it's a mystery as to what these things are, what these children are, but nonetheless, everyone who's ever encountered one is terrified of them. Okay, for the most part, with the exception of a couple of kids, I think, that tried to be friends with them. But you never let them in your house and never let them in your car. Don't let them in, because it's very vampiric, in my opinion. You let them in, you may end up one of those missing persons statistics. Okay, so you got to be careful with that. And so back in around 2004, 2003, 2004, I was living in Atlanta. Okay, and downtown Atlanta, in an old home that was haunted, very haunted, and it was in the middle it was on ground that there had been like Civil War battles fought there. Atlanta had been burned to the ground around the Civil War time, the 1860s, I guess. And it was in the seedy bar district, okay, where people would go and drink, and a lot of just shady stuff going on right there. And one night I awoke to my doorbell ringing, and I got out of bed, and I lived in the basement apartment of this house. And it kind of took some work to walk down the hill off the street and then go to the side. And you know, it was off the beaten path. Okay, so, and it wasn't uncommon for my friends to stumble to my apartment and ring my doorbell to sleep on my couch. Okay, because it was the bar district. Okay, and people like to go out. And I had a lot of friends back then. Okay, a lot of friends. And so I opened up my door, which led to a hallway, which led to the outside door. Okay, and there was one other apartment downstairs beside mine, but that lady, I don't think she was home. And so I opened up my door and I started walking. I didn't turn my lights on because I didn't know who it was. We didn't have Ring doorbells, cameras back then. And so I quietly opened up my door and I tiptoed down the hallway, and I looked out the window that was up high on my door. And I kind of peered out, and there was a man standing there that I had never seen before. And he was standing there staring at my door with all black eyes. He did not have one bit of white in his eyes. And I had never seen this man before. He was dressed nice. I mean, he was dressed normally. And I think he was Hispanic looking. And he just stared at my door. And he didn't move. He didn't blink his eyes. He did not move. I was looking to see if he was breathing, but I knew something was very wrong with him. And I remember feeling like the man had no soul. And I started thinking, everything was going through my mind, like, well, is he on drugs? You know, is he there to hurt me? You know? And so I immediately backed slowly down the hallway, shut my door, and I got some self-protection, if you know what I mean. And I sat in my bed. I didn't go to sleep until the sun came up because I didn't call the cops either. Okay. I don't usually call the cops. So I don't have to. But that was really scary. And it's haunted me for years. That haunted me. And that came across, and I was actually tasked that as one of my remote viewing targets a while back. And I talked about it on a show recently. Because I guess it was just kind of that was such a haunted location, first of all, and I thought it'd be interesting too to see, was this an actual a black-eyed person, like a black-eyed child? Are the black-eyed children just children, or can they be adults too? Was this guy cracked out? Okay, was it sure somebody had been doing drugs all day? Or all night, or was it a demon? Was it some kind of demonic entity or something, you know? And so I have really gotten I've done a lot of research into these black-eyed kids. My friend Barry, who I mentioned earlier, he's he's done a lot of research on the black-eyed kids as well. He actually makes the connection between like the garbage pail kids. Okay, you mentioned the Cabbage Patch Kids. Well, there used to be these playing cards back in the 1980s or 90s that were kind of a spoof of the Cabbage Patch Kids that were called Garbage Pail Kids. And when you look at these Garbage Pail Kids, they're kind of like the result of nuclear fallout, kind of, some of them. And so there's that connection there. But I did this remote viewing target of that man. Okay. And the results were very interesting because what it turned out with this guy was actually, I think that he was not, well, I picked up he was interdimensional. It was something to do with interdimensional and a watcher. Okay. The data said watcher, but I was also picking up on something that was dead inside, surveillance and drone. Surveillance drone, a watcher.
That's where it would be a watcher. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think again, when we're looking at the black-eyed kids and stuff, and we're looking at that again, I'm going to say it still relates back to those babies that were created from Nephilim DNA, basically, in many ways. And then they are matched to the Raphaim, which are the spirits that can't create bodies for themselves. They pretty much reside in the realm of chaos, and they need a body. So this is how they do it. And then that's how they create chaos in the world around them. That's just crazy, actually. Yeah. So well, no, I don't, none of that stuff is from God. I'm sorry. Definitely not. So, I mean, it's like, so interdimensional what? Yeah, just because it comes from an interdimensional, it's all the more reason. And so it stands with black eyes that has no soul. Why would you want to be at my front door? Go away.
Because he was sent there. Actually, the data was pretty obvious that he was sent there as a drone. He was like a drone. Yes. Like he was being controlled by something different. It wasn't that man. His body had been taken over. It was quite demonic. Yeah, very demonic. I was even picking up on Candyman. Okay, there's this old, I don't know how old it is, but there's a horror film called Candyman. There's a man that had bees coming out of his mouth and stuff, and it was a very demonic kind of movie as well. But I was picking up on him. But it turns out that data, it seems as though I was on some sort of like a spiritual hit list or a watch list or something, where I was being watched by whatever was there. I also had a lot of like demonic type activity going on at that house, where I would come home at night and there was like a sheet or a blanket of flies on my ceiling. Okay. In the hallway leading to my apartment. There was a black mass that floated around my apartment and knocked me down one day. A lot of weird stuff happened there. It wasn't very comfortable living there. But that man was the icing on the cake. Yeah. It sucked.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So this stuff happens. It happened to me. Okay. And I know I'm not crazy. I'm a little crazy, but I'm not that crazy. And I knew exactly what had happened that night. And it stuck with me ever since. I mean, it's been almost 20 years since that happened. Okay. Wow. Or it has been 20 years. It's been exactly 20 years since that happened. Okay.
Wow. And when you moved out, did they leave you alone then?
Yes. Yeah, it did. Right. Yeah, it was definitely the house and not the person. Okay. Yeah. It was the house that was haunted, not me. Okay. But I felt like I was targeted for especially that incident. But when I think about like, why would I have been targeted? It would be so I could talk about it today, probably, and relate it to all the work I'm doing now. So Absolutely. Maybe that's what it was. Yeah. I didn't get hurt. Absolutely. I survived, I was scared, but I'm
so important to trust your intuition, right? Mm-hmm. Because when you felt that, it was like, no, I'm not allowing you in. And it's
exactly. Don't let them in.
You have to in order for them to take hold of your, whether it's your residence or your body, whatever, you have to give permission. So, if you, and oftentimes trauma, addiction, stuff like that creates that like a rip in your psyche.
A crack.
And yes, exactly. And they're like predators, man. They'll smell it like a predator smells blood. And they'll
Like
come
vampires.
Yeah,
like vampires.
Totally.
I mean, it's in the data that he was instructed to go there. He was instructed, like a drone. And a drone. He was a drone. So was he there for my benefit so that I could talk about it today? Just put a little fear into me so I never forgot it? Maybe so.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't try to get it. He didn't try to open my door. He just stood there and let me look at him. Right. So I don't know. I look at the world a lot differently than most people. Okay. I look at the world differently because everything that I experience in my life, and I have, even like the most horrible things, there's always been some sort of a lesson, or it's just been, it's been slight growth for me. Yeah.
Everything negative has an opportunity to transform into the positive. We've just got to see the gift, the lesson in the experience, for sure. And it could have, if you'd let him in, could have turned out differently, but you trusted your intuition and your discernment, and you wouldn't let him in because they're not allowed to force themselves in. You've got to give them access. That's the thing.
God. No, I wouldn't be here today if I'd opened that door, probably. I mean, there's no way. I think that he was there for something bad. He probably was there for something bad.
Most definitely.
And you can feel it, like your heart will sink when something is not right. Like your body will let off the alarms. Okay.
Exactly.
And so pay attention to that. If you're feeling like, listen, if that had been a kid, I wouldn't have opened the door either. Okay. I would not have even opened the door for a child. I would have called the police and had somebody. I would have called all the neighbors. I would have done something, but I would not have opened the door because you just don't know. First of all, from a self-preservation standpoint, somebody could have sent a kid down to my door to knock on it, and then when I opened the door, they could have ran in and to attack me. Like an adult could have been hiding or something. Exactly. So just be aware of your surroundings is all I'm saying.
Absolutely. It's so true. And be aware, that obviously anything can come to you in any shape or form. And it's true what you say, that's your body is always going to give off the alarms, and that's your intuition. So if you're not listening to your alarm bells, then we live in on a planet of free will and choice. So we get the warning bells, whether we decide to go there or not is entirely up to us. Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm so happy you didn't open the door, babe.
I know, me too. I would have never opened the door for that dude. Okay. And luckily I had my outside light on so I could see him too. But I've never witnessed anyone who had, I have since actually. I've seen one other person who had all black eyes. And it was someone that I knew. Okay. And that was a fleeting moment for a little while, one day. Not to get into details about that. I think I might have mentioned it before here, but this gentleman, that was, like I said, it was 20 years ago, and he just stood there, and I did inspect him. I looked at him pretty well and got a really good look at him to make sure he wasn't just like drunk or, on substances of some sort. And I did a body scan. Okay. I was looking at him. I was like, all right, what's wrong with that dude? And he was just demonic. That's all it was. There was something wrong. Something wrong with him. He wasn't a him. He was a it. I mean, he was like a creature.
Isn't it interesting how when people who will drink excessively or take drugs, whatever, they'll very often time you look at them, it's like, and it's not even their eyes. You look into their eyes and you can see. Because that the alcohol means the ghoul is demon, right? The word ghoul comes from the word ghoul. And that's why when you have too much alcohol, you'll often black out. And when you black out, literally, something has taken over your body and you don't remember. Yeah, it's
Oh, yeah.
crazy.
So a lot of dark
And
entities like to hang out around bars, and I
yeah,
did live in the bar district off of Ponce de Leon Avenue, okay, across from the Claremont Lounge. So it was a seedy area with a lot of drinking, a lot of people up at night, and people walking the streets all night and stuff. So it was a
alcohol
perfect
and
place.
drugs. Yeah, alcohol and drugs are great. And not just, I mean, you know, if you are overdosing on pharmaceutical drugs as well, yep, you open that door, you know. So
Yeah.
it's true what you say. You got to just be discerning. And
Yeah,
you've
don't
just got
open the
to,
door of
you
any
don't
sort.
want to know anyone unless you can know exactly who it is. Yeah, absolutely. Giving them
Yeah.
access doesn't work very well. Yay! Well, thank you so much for another fantastic show and always informative. And then we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time again. Is there
Thank
anything
you.
else you maybe just want to round off with?
Yeah. No, you guys, please be safe out there. Keep your head on a swivel. Just be aware of what's out there, what's really out there, because we really don't know. But don't let it interrupt your everyday lives. Okay, we're here to learn and to have fun and to love. Okay, and I talk about some dark stuff, and we talk about some dark stuff here and on my channel as well. But it's to bring awareness to it. Okay, so bring awareness to it, and to know how to kind of duck and dive, okay, and to stay out of harm's way. Okay, that's our purpose here. But yeah, you guys play. If you guys would like to see my shows, I do have a YouTube channel. That's the Cryptid Huntress, and if you're up late tomorrow night, I will be on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. So y'all come listen in. I know in South Africa, you guys it'll be in the middle of your day. Okay, tomorrow, the next day actually. Yeah. But yeah,
Fantastic. Well, good luck with it and congratulations. That's a nice scoop to get there, most definitely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us for another really cool and interesting connection with the lovely Jessica Jones. And I shall see you tomorrow, Double Dose Jessie, and then Tom Palladino, a new guest as well at 6 o'clock my time, which is an hour before now. Yeah, he's got some amazing inventions regarding scalar technology and stuff like that. So very interesting conversation that. Cool, everybody. God bless you all. Take good care of yourselves, and I shall see you then. Bye.
Bye, y'all.